Why is it even necessary? Why do you find it necessary to believe in the fantasy of equality when we all know that some people are better than others? We all know that some people are smarter than others. We all know that some people are more capable than others. And if that's the case, and it is the case, then subhanAllah, I hope that we're not all born equal, because that would be a severe indictment against anyone and everyone who fails in their life to become an astronaut, or to become a brain surgeon, or to become a brilliant writer or an artist. If we're all born equal, then how do you explain the infinite disparities between people's capacities? But then you're going to say that all women are equal with all men? When all men aren't equal with all men and all women aren't equal with all women, this is incoherent. What does it even mean? Every person, individual person, is tasked with what their God-given capacities are capable of, and no one is blamed or shamed or looked down upon for not being able to do what's beyond their capacity. And we're not judged on an equal basis, but we're judged according to our individual abilities, whether you're a man or a woman.
ومن يعمل من الصالحات من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة ولا يظلمون نقيرا ومن أحسن دينا ممن أسلم وجهه لله وهو محسن واتبع ملة إبراهيم حنيفا
فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره.
It's quite patriarchal, isn't it? I mean, doesn't the Quran say that men have authority over women?
Well, don't they? I mean, men are the ones who have been oppressing you all this time, right? I mean, according to your own narrative, men have been running the show. The feminists are asking for their so-called rights. From who exactly? Look, if you didn't have what you call patriarchy, then what you would have is a hell on earth for women. Because clearly, women do not have the power to coerce men, to force men, to make men deal with them this way or that way. If you're out somewhere and a man starts to chat you up and you don't want to be chatted up, what do? You tell him, I have a boyfriend, I'm married, and he goes away. You have to conjure up an imaginary man to get him to back off, because 9 times out of 10, only a man can keep another man in check, because men are inherently more dangerous than women. Instead of patriarchy, replace that word with bodyguard. What makes more sense? For you to be my bodyguard or for me to be your bodyguard? Who do you think is more capable of protecting who? From who? If men didn't protect women, who would? And isn't your bodyguard responsible for you? Shouldn't you listen to him if he says, for example, don't go here, don't go there, or let's take this route instead of that route because it's safer? Isn't that authority? But he's doing it for you. Would you feel resentment about that authority? That's irrational. Look, you cannot dismiss the importance of physicality, human physicality. We're physical beings. Technology does not level the field the way you think it does. Let's say you have a business meeting, and you have the meeting in a coffee shop, and while you're there, during the meeting, it gets late. It gets very late. And then the meeting is over, your phone battery is dead, the coffee shop is closed, the client has left, and you came by Uber. Now you're alone in the dark with no way home. If it's me, I'll just walk home. If it's you, you would have been getting nervous and worried throughout the entire meeting, the later it got, worrying about how you're going to get home. You're not going to be worried about being assaulted by a gang of women. And if you were walking the street by yourself late at night and you see a man coming towards you, which one of the two of you is more likely to be afraid? Who's going to be scared of who? But see, you in the West have confused this. The feminists have confused this. The red pillars have confused this power imbalance with superiority. We don't do that because we don't attach that kind of value to it. It just is what it is. The power imbalance, that literal physical power imbalance, that imbalance in the ability to coerce and exert force and to be violent, is just a fact and a reality of the power imbalance between men and women. But your culture is in love with power. It's in love with force. It's in love with violence. So to you, whoever has the greater capacity for violence, whoever has the greater capacity for being dangerous, then that person is better. The one who can exert his will is better. Whoever has the power to force people to do something is better. And whoever is weaker is less. It's because you admire power so much, and you admire force, and you admire the ability to coerce, that you find yourself resenting that men have authority over women, or the idea, the concept of men having authority over women, because you think it's unfair. You think that women are being deprived. But remove that authority and see how deprived you'll be. Remove that authority and you will be in danger. You will be deprived of your safety. You'll be deprived of your security, your freedom, and maybe your life. In the Muslim world, we're not confused about this. And we don't think in terms of better or higher value on this basis, except in terms of piety and righteousness. And what each person's role is, and what their duties are in society, in the family, all naturally proceeds from their abilities and capacities. I'm not equal to a woman who is more pious than me, but I may have authority over her, because authority does not mean the same thing as superiority. It's just a function. It's just a function that doesn't carry any particular implications about it with regards to value. But your society assigns a value to it that's inappropriate, that is not an obvious value to be assigned to it. You in the West, because you largely become atheists, will make fun of Muslims, will make fun of our intelligence, because, as you say, we believe in fairy tales. You say, we believe in a God without evidence. We have no evidence to prove the existence of God, but we believe in him. Meanwhile, you invent a concept, this concept of equality, and treat it as sacred, and you believe in it religiously, with religious devotion, and you demand that everyone believes in it, and no one can dare doubt the reality and the holy truth of the concept of equality, even though all evidence that you are exposed to on a daily basis disproves that concept. So you'll make fun of us, and you'll look down on us, and you'll insult our intelligence for believing in something that you say we don't have any proof for. Meanwhile, you're believing in something for which all of the proof that exists disproves. You see how incoherent your thinking process is?
ولا تتمنوا ما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسبن واسألوا الله من فضله إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله.
The fact that women want to work, I mean, they should have the right, don't you think? Most women want to have a career.
Well, I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that for a second. You're telling me what you've been told and what you've been told to believe, not what you actually believe and not what's actually the case. No, I don't believe for a second that most women want to work and most women want to have a career. That's PR, that's propaganda. I mean, you can't say honestly that you think that most women want to work and also say that women have equal intelligence as men, because if they have equal intelligence as men, what intelligent person would choose to work if they had a choice not to? I know a man wouldn't, if given the choice. No, I know that most women don't want to work. I don't need to see the statistics. I know that most women don't want to work because I work. So I know what it's like. No, you can only convince a woman or anyone else that it's wonderful, it's just so fulfilling to dress up in business clothes and go to an office all day if they've never worked. You can maybe sell that message to young, inexperienced people, but anyone who has been in the workforce for any length of time will tell you it is not exactly living the dream. No, most people don't want to work. Now, obviously, there are exceptions, and there are people who can, genuinely derive a lot of satisfaction from their work. But we all know that they could find infinite other ways to achieve that and better than that level of satisfaction if they weren't wage slaves and had control of their time. Should women have the right to work? You understand what incredibly deceptive language that is? In your society, do they have the right not to work? That's a better question. I mean, look at how they manipulate language around this issue. Instead of just saying you have to work, they say that you have a career or you have a job, as if it's something that you gained, as if it's something, something that you have, rather than talk about all the things that you lose by having that, all of the things that you have to let go in order to keep hold of that job. They say you have a career, but what they mean is your employer has you. And that's where you spend most of your time. That's where you spend, most of your waking hours, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, plus however long it takes you to commute. So maybe up to around half of a 24-hour day. You are either going to work, at work, or coming home from work. And then you get, if you're lucky, maybe 4 to 5 hours a day off, 4 to 5 hours a day left of free time. Look at that phrase, free time. Because, yes, in your free, democratic, liberated, independent country, most citizens only get about 4 to 5 hours a day of freedom. Because the rest of the time, you're at work. And work is extremely not democratic, not free, and you have no independence. You do what you're told, you wear what you're told, you eat when they let you. Your time is not your own. In some places, you even have to ask permission to use the restroom. So most of your waking hours are actually spent in a thoroughly totalitarian environment, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you get maybe 4 to 5 hours a day of freedom. And you're telling me that women want that? No. The system wants that for women. And it has made it largely unavoidable because the cost of living is too high. Or anyway, the cost of supporting the lifestyle and maintaining the lifestyle that your society teaches you that you must have if you are to be regarded as a worthwhile and successful human being. Necessary for women to work. And human beings have a great capacity to convince themselves that they are actually in favor of things that have been imposed upon them. So they tell themselves that they actually want the thing that they have no choice but to accept. Then, of course, on top of that, you have all this propaganda about how wonderful and how fulfilling it is to sell your time and your labor to an employer, to rent yourself out to your employer. And you have people, excuse me, but like yourself, spreading the propaganda. It's no different, really, from, how you have women in human trafficking networks, women who procure women for the traffickers. It's basically the same thing. It's just different in the severity of the consequences. But both types of people are lying and making false promises about the servitude and drudgery that they are actually dragging women into on the basis of promises of how wonderful it's going to be and how much they deserve all of the great things that are going to come to you if you listen to me and do what I say. When actually you're just going to become a wage slave. Just like in a human trafficking thing, you're going to become an actual slave. And it's really interesting to me because I just saw a video by a Muslim sister where she was comparing, the ticket sales for the Barbie movie with the ticket sales for the Oppenheimer movie, and what that indicates. It's not so much a story as cinematic representation of a brain scan of a radical feminist, the delusional way that they see the world. Whereas Oppenheimer is about a physicist, the splitting of the atom and the creation of the atom bomb. Women aren't going to see that one. The sales for Barbie are eclipsing the sales for Oppenheimer. So that means women aren't going to see Oppenheimer, but women are going to see Barbie. Men aren't going to see Barbie. So women would rather watch a movie, spend money to watch a movie telling them that they can be and do anything. They're more interested in being told how much they can achieve than they are interested in achieving it. You can't even get them to watch a movie about physics. How are you going to get them to study it? They'd rather watch Barbie. Obviously, that's a huge generalization. What it shows is the appeal of the propaganda. The appeal of the propaganda has far more appeal than what the propaganda is promising. The propaganda is promising that you can do and be anything. But women aren't as much interested in doing and being anything as they are interested in being told that they can. And that's not really saying anything. It's the same for everybody. I mean, if you could actually remove from the workforce everyone who does not genuinely find fulfillment and satisfaction from their job, you would have extremely few workers left of either sex. Men find fulfillment, usually not from the work itself. Most of the time, it's not from the work itself, but it's from the fact that they are successfully providing for their families. So they sell their souls to the company store, as the old song says, for the sake of their loved ones. And they find some level of gratification from that, and it gives them a sense of purpose, even doing the most, mundane, difficult, and tedious work. And there's honor in that, because it involves a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice that you do for your family. But no, most women don't want to work, because of course they don't. Most people don't want to work. Think it through. There are exceptions, but exceptions notwithstanding, most people don't want to work. But you have to be propagandized into it. This is propaganda. It's just like when Edward Bernays, the father of modern PR, got women to start smoking cigarettes for his customer, for his client, by connecting the smoking of cigarettes with women's lib. Just as that was unhealthy for women, this is unhealthy for women. Just as that was for the sake of someone else's profits, so is this. It's just propaganda.
Bernays leaned heavily into women's liberation, acknowledging that cigarettes had long been associated with men, and creating the link between equality and public smoking. He marketed cigarettes as torches of freedom, and at demonstrations he hired women to wield their cigarettes and had them photographed and printed in the news. Women across the country followed suit, and sales skyrocketed.
Look, women have always worked, including Muslim women. They either did it because of necessity or they did it because they wanted to, and that's fine. But they never did it because they were fed constant propaganda that they must work in order to be whole and fulfilled human beings. They never worked because work was deceitfully portrayed as how you advance some noble cause of gender equality. They never worked because the society told them that if they didn't, they were useless. And they're not being told that. That propaganda isn't being spread by anyone except by the profiteers of their labor. So of course they will tell them that. They want the market to have vastly more workers than there are jobs, obviously. That diminishes workers' leverage and increases employers' leverage. It's probably the only reason that they're trying to adultify children now. These days, how they're sort of wanting to lower the age of consent and so on, so that they can eventually get rid of child labor laws. I mean, they want to push retirement age back as far as possible. So they probably want to eventually lower the legal working age as well at some point. I mean, look at Joe Biden. The man should be in a care home. But they want as many people in the workforce as possible for as long as possible. But don't at least tell yourself that this is good for you and you want it, just because it's what business wants for you. When women go to the workplace, they're not breaking down barriers. They are erecting barriers around themselves. And men know that because we've been in those barriers all our lives. We know what it's like to be in the workplace. We know that all of this propaganda is propaganda. It's not a wonderful thing to go out into the workforce. The domestic life of women traditionally has been a socialist utopia. Why would you leave that? Most people don't want to work. That's a fact.